Captain Jake Morrison rubbed his tired eyes as he stared at the navigation screen. The New Horizon had been traveling through hyperspace for 3 days now, carrying medical supplies and food to the outer colonies. It was boring work, but someone had to do it. Colonies needed these supplies to survive. Jake was 35 years old and had been flying cargo ships for 12 years. He had short brown hair and a beard that his wife always told him to trim. She was back on Earth, waiting for him to return from this mission. He missed her, but the pay was good, and the colonies always needed help. His crew was small but reliable. Lisa Yang sat at the pilot controls, her black hair tied back in a ponytail. She was the best pilot Jake had ever worked with. She could fly through asteroid fields like they were empty space. Tommy Brooks worked in the engine room, keeping their old ship running. He was only 22, but knew more about engines than men twice his age. Kate Sullivan was their medic and cargo specialist. She made sure everyone stayed healthy and that their supplies were properly stored. The New Horizon was not a fancy ship. It was 40 years old and showed its age. The walls were scratched and dented. Some of the lights flickered. The coffee maker only worked half the time, but it was home to Jake and his crew, and it had never let them down. Jake was drinking his morning coffee when the ship's computer started beeping. Lisa looked up from her controls with a confused expression on her face. "Captain, I'm getting something strange on the communications system," she said. "It's not coming from any human ship or colony." Jake set down his coffee cup and walked over to Lisa's station. The screen showed wave patterns he had never seen before. The computer was trying to translate whatever signal they were receiving, but it was taking time. "Tommy, Kate, get up here," Jake called over the ship's intercom. "We've got something unusual?" Tommy climbed up from the engine room, wiping grease off his hands with a dirty cloth. Kate came from the medical bay, where she had been checking their medical supplies. They all gathered around Lisa's station to look at the strange signal. "Computer, what do you have for us?" Jake asked. The ship's artificial intelligence spoke in its calm, mechanical voice. "Signal appears to be a distress call from an unknown species. Translation is 73% complete. Playing audio now." The speakers crackled with static. Then a voice came through. It sounded desperate and afraid. The words were strange, but the computer had translated them into English. "This is Vera, title song of the planet Aquanus. Our world is under attack. The Sectar Dominion has come to our system with many ships. They are destroying our cities and taking our people. Have tried to fight, but we are not warriors. We're scientists and farmers and teachers. Please, if anyone can hear this message, we need help. Our children are crying, our elders are dying, the sector ships are everywhere, and they burn our homes and steal our people to make them slaves. We do not have much time left. Please help us, please." The message ended, and the ship fell silent. Jake looked at his crew. Tommy's mouth was hanging open. Kate had tears in her eyes. Lisa was staring at the screen with anger on her face. "Computer, how far away is this signal coming from?" Jake asked. "Signal originated from a star system approximately 4 days away at maximum hyperspace speed," the computer replied. Jake walked to the front of the ship and looked out at the stars racing past them in hyperspace. He thought about the voice they had just heard. Vera title song sounded so scared, so hopeless. Somewhere out there, people were being attacked and enslaved, and they were asking for help. Captain Lisa said quietly, "What are we going to do?" Knew what he should do. Military regulations were clear. Any alien contact had to be reported to Earth Command immediately. They would send the message up the chain of command. Committees would meet. Politicians would argue. Scientists would study the signal for months. Maybe, if they were lucky, Earth would send a small scout ship to investigate in a year or two. But Jake also knew that would be too late. Whatever was happening to the people of Aquanus was happening right now. Every minute they waited more. Innocent people might die or be taken as slaves. "Tommy, how are our engines?" Jake asked. "Running good, Captain? Could change course if we needed to." "Hey, do we have enough medical supplies if we run into trouble?" "Yes, sir. We're carrying enough to help a lot of people." "Lisa, can you plot a course to that star system?" Lisa's fingers moved quickly over her controls. "Course plotted, Captain." "But sir, This isn't our mission. We're supposed to deliver these supplies to Colony 7. Jake looked at his crew. They were all good people. They'd signed up to deliver cargo, not to get involved in alien wars. He had no right to put them in danger. I know this isn't what we signed up for, Jake said. If we change course, we could get in serious trouble with Earth Command. We might lose our jobs, might even face a military trial. But right now, somewhere out there, people are dying and asking for help. I can't ignore that. I won't ignore that. He paused and looked each of them in the eye. But I won't make this decision alone. We vote. All in favor of changing course too. Help these people, raise your hand. Jake raised his hand first. Kate raised hers immediately after. Tommy hesitated for just a moment, then his hand went up too. Lisa was the last to vote, but her hand went up with determination. It's decided then, Jake said. Lisa, change course for Aquinas. Tommy, give me everything the engines can handle. Kate, prepare the medical bay for casualties. And everyone, get ready. We don't know what we're flying into. The New Horizon changed direction, leaving behind their safe cargo mission for the unknown dangers ahead. None of them knew that their decision would change the course of galactic history forever. 4 days later, the New Horizon dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Aquinas system. What Jake and his crew saw made their blood run cold. The system was full of massive alien warships. They were dark gray and covered in sharp angles, like giant metal sharks floating in space. Jake counted at least 30 of them, each one bigger than any human ship he had ever seen. They surrounded a beautiful blue-green planet that must be Aquinas. My God, Lisa whispered as she stared at the main screen. Look at the size of those ships. The planet below was burning. Even from space, they could see bright orange flames spreading across entire continents. Explosions flashed like lightning as the alien ships fired their weapons at cities below. Smaller ships moved back and forth between the warships and the planet's surface, carrying what looked like cargo containers. They're loading people onto those transport ships, Kate said, her voice shaking with anger. They're stealing them like cargo. Tommy was working at the sensor station, trying to get more information about the alien ships. Captain, these ships are using technology I've never seen before. Their weapons are incredibly powerful. They're not just attacking military targets. They're hitting schools, hospitals, homes. Jake felt sick to his stomach. Yes, the Sectar were not just conquering this world. They were destroying it completely, taking what they wanted and burning the rest. Lisa, can you get us closer without being detected? Jake asked. I can try. These old cargo ships don't show up well on scanners. If I keep us near those asteroid fields, we might stay hidden. The New Horizon moved carefully through the outer system, hiding behind rocks and debris. As they got closer, the destruction became even more horrible. Entire cities were gone, replaced by smoking craters. The oceans, which should have been blue, were dark with ash and debris. Suddenly their communication system came alive with signals. The computer was picking up dozens of transmissions from the planet's surface. Most were in the same alien language they had heard in the original distress call. Computer, translate these signals, Jake ordered. The speakers filled with voices, all speaking in panic and fear. Families were calling for lost children. People were begging for help as their homes burned around them. Some were saying goodbye to loved ones, knowing they would never see them again. One voice came through clearer than the others. It was the same voice from the original message. This is Vera Title's song. I am hiding in the underwater ruins of the old city. The Sectar have taken most of my people. They put them in cages like animals. I have 17 others with me, including 5 children. We need help. Please, if anyone can hear this, we are running out of time. Jake made a decision. Lisa, can you trace that signal? Working on it, Captain? Got it. The signal's coming. From the northern ocean, about 200 kilometers from the main continent. Take us down, carefully. The New Horizon entered the planet's atmosphere, staying low to avoid the Sectar sensors. The air was thick with smoke and ash. Through the clouds, they could see the devastation below. What had once been a beautiful world was now a wasteland. They found Vera's location in the ruins of an underwater city. Parts of ancient buildings stuck up above the water's surface like broken teeth. Lisa landed the ship on a floating platform that looked like it had been part of a dock. Jake, Kate, and Tommy put on environment suits and left the ship. The air was breathable, but full of ash that made their eyes water. They walked carefully along the broken dock until they found an opening that led underwater. "Hello," Jake called out. "Vera title song. This is Captain Jake Morrison. We received your message. We're here to help." A figure emerged from the water. It was unlike anything Jake had ever seen. Vera looked like a cross between a human and Piet, a dolphin. She had smooth blue skin, large dark eyes, and webbed hands. She moved gracefully in the water, but could also walk on land. Behind her came 16 others, including children who stayed close to the adults. "You came," Vera said, in accented but clear English. "You actually came. I thought no one would hear us. I thought we would all die here." Kate immediately went to work checking the children for injuries while Jake and Tommy talked with Vera. She explained what had happened to her world. "The Sectar came 3 months ago," she said. "They said we were now part of their empire. When we refused to become slaves, they began destroying our cities. They take our people to work in their mines and factories. They do not care if we live or die as long as we work."
"How many ships do they have?"
Tommy asked. "Many. Too many for us to fight. We are not warriors. We are teachers, artists, scientists. We study the oceans and the stars. We have never hurt anyone." Jake was recording everything on his personal device. The galaxy needed to know what was happening here. "What about other worlds?" Jake asked. "Have they done this before?" Vera's large eyes filled with sadness. "Yes, they have conquered 47 worlds. They have enslaved billions of people. They call themselves the rulers of the galaxy. They say all other species exist only to serve them." Tommy was scanning the Sectar ships with his equipment. Suddenly, he got excited. "Captain, I found something important. Their shields have a weakness. They use a specific frequency to protect their ships, but if we hit them with the right electromagnetic pulse, we could disrupt their defenses." Before Jake could respond, alarms started ringing on their ship. Lisa's voice came over their communicators. "Captain, we've been spotted. 3 Sectar patrol ships are heading our way. We need to leave now." Jake looked at Vera and the other survivors. "We can take some of you with us, but not everyone." "Take the children," Vera said immediately. "Save them. We adults will find another way." "No," Jake said firmly. "We don't leave anyone behind. Tommy, get everyone onto our ship. Kate, help. The injured Lisa, prepare for emergency takeoff." They rushed to get everyone aboard the New Horizon. Sectar ships were getting closer, their weapons charging up to fire. Lisa started the engines just as the first energy blasts hit the water. Around them, the New Horizon lifted off and flew into the thick clouds, using the smoke and ash to hide from their pursuers. The Sectar ships followed, firing blindly into the clouds. One blast came so close, it shook the entire ship. "Hold on, everyone," Lisa shouted as she pushed the ship to its limits. They burst through the atmosphere and into space, the ships right behind them. But Lisa was the best pilot in the merchant fleet. She flew the New Horizon through the asteroid field like it was a race course, using the rocks to block the enemy fire. The Sectar ships were bigger and more powerful, but they were not as fast or flexible as the human ship. Finally, they lost their pursuers in the maze of asteroids. Jake looked back at the burning planet one last time, then made the most important decision of his life. Lisa set course for Earth. "Maximum speed? What about our cargo mission?" Tommy asked. "The colonies will have to wait," Jake said. "This is bigger than our mission. This is bigger than all of us. Earth needs to know what's happening out here." As they jumped into hyperspace, Jake began composing his message to Earth Command. He included everything they had recorded, all the evidence of Sectar brutality, and Tommy's discovery about their shield weakness. He ended the message with simple words that would change everything. Humanity is needed here. Admiral Sam Carter was drinking his morning coffee when the emergency alert came through. It was 4 a.m. at Earth's Defense Command, and the building was mostly empty except for the night shift. Sam had been working late on supply reports. When his computer started flashing red, he clicked on the message and saw it was marked with the highest priority code. The sender was listed as Captain Jake Morrison, merchant vessel New Horizon. Sam had never heard of Morrison, but any message with that priority level meant serious trouble. Sam opened the file and watched Jake's recording. At first he thought, it might be some kind of joke or mistake. Alien species asking for help? An empire that enslaved entire worlds? It sounded like something from a science fiction movie, but as he watched the footage of burning cities and saw the desperate faces of the alien survivors on Jake's ship, Sam realized this was real. The images of children being loaded onto transport ships like cargo made his hands shake with anger. Sam immediately called President Helen Foster. It was still early morning, but this could not wait. The president answered on the second ring. "This better be important, Sam," she said in a tired voice. "Madam President, you need to see something right away. I'm sending you a file. Watch it now, then call me back." 20 minutes later, President Foster called back. Her voice was completely different now, cold and hard as steel. "Get everyone to the White House. Now, I want the Joint Chiefs, the Secretary of Defense, and the head of Space Command. I want them here in 1 hour." Sam had never heard the president sound so angry. He started making calls, waking up the most important military leaders in the country. Within an hour, they were all sitting around the table in the White House Situation Room. General Paul Davis, chairman of the Joint Chiefs, watched the recording twice before speaking. "How do we know this is real? This could be some kind of alien trick." Commander Ryan Torres, head of the Terran Marine Corps, slammed his fist on the table. "Look at those children, Paul. Look at their faces. You think someone could fake that kind of fear and pain?" Colonel Amy Wells, Earth's best military strategist, was studying the technical data Tommy had collected. The shield frequencies are consistent with theoretical models. This information about their weaknesses appears genuine. President Foster stood up and walked to the window. Outside, the sun was rising over Washington, somewhere out in space. Jake Morrison and his crew were racing toward Earth with alien refugees. While billions of innocent people suffered under sectar rule, how many worlds did they say were enslaved? She asked quietly. 47, madame, President Sam replied. 47 worlds, billions of people living as slaves. The president turned back to face the room. "How many ships can we mobilize, General?" Davis looked uncomfortable. "Madam President, we're talking about going to war with an unknown alien empire. We don't know how powerful they are. We could be starting a fight we can't win. We already know how powerful they are," Ryan Torres said angrily. "They're powerful enough to enslave 47 worlds. They're powerful enough to burn entire planets. The question is, are we going to let them continue?" Colonel Wells pulled up star charts on the main screen. Based on the location data, the sectar territory is approximately 3 weeks away at maximum fleet speed. If we mobilize everything we have, we could field about 300 ships. 300 ships against an empire that conquered 47 worlds? General Davis shook his head. "The numbers don't look good." President Foster walked back to the table and sat down. She looked at each person in the room, then spoke in a voice that left no room for argument. "Gentlemen, ladies, let me make something very clear. I did not become president to watch genocide happen while we sit here and calculate odds. Those people out there are crying for help, and we have the power to give it to them." She stood up again and pointed at the screen, which still showed images from Aquinas. "Look at those children. Look at those families being torn apart. Now imagine if that was happening to human children. Imagine if aliens were loading our kids onto slave ships while we begged for help from anyone who would listen." The room fell silent. Everyone was thinking about their own families, their own children. Every person in this room swore an oath. "To protect innocent life," the president continued. "Well, innocent life is being destroyed right now, and we have the chance to stop it. I don't care if they're human or alien. I don't care if it's dangerous. We're going to help them." Commander Torres smiled for the first time that morning. "What are your orders, Madam President?" "I want every available ship ready to deploy within 24 hours. Every Marine, every soldier, every pilot who can fight. We're going to show the sectar what happens when you hurt innocent people within hearing distance of Earth." General Davis still looked worried. "Madam President, Congress will need to approve a military action of this size. President Foster picked up her phone. I'm calling an emergency session of Congress for this afternoon, but I'm not asking for permission. I'm informing them of what we're going to do. The ships will launch with or without their approval. Over the next 6 hours, Earth became a hive of activity.
Nice.
Every military base on the planet received mobilization orders. Ships that had been in dry dock for repairs were rushed back into. Service cargo vessels were converted into troop transports. Weapons factories switched to emergency production schedules. The USS Liberty, Earth's most powerful battleship, was chosen as the flagship. Captain Danny Wright, a veteran of the asteroid wars, was given command of the entire fleet. He had fought pirates and criminals, but never anything like this. At Marine bases around the world, soldiers loaded equipment and said goodbye to their families. Many of them had never been in space before, but they were eager to fight for people who needed their help. Colonel Wells worked day and night to plan the attack. Using Tommy's information about the Sectar shield weakness, she developed new tactics that could give Earth's smaller fleet an advantage. Meanwhile, the New Horizon was still racing toward Earth with the alien refugees. Jake had been sending regular updates on their condition. The Cathera were amazed by human kindness, especially Kate's medical care for their injured. Vera Titlesong spent hours talking with Jake about her people and her world. She could not believe that strangers from another planet would risk everything just to help them. "Why are you doing this?" she asked him. "You don't know us. We have nothing to offer you in return." Jake thought about her question for a long time before answering. Because it's the right thing to do. Because when someone calls for help, you answer. Because no one deserves to live as a slave or watch their children suffer. By the end of the second day, 312 ships had gathered at the staging area near Mars. It was the largest fleet Earth had ever assembled. Battleships, destroyers, carriers, and support vessels stretched as far as the eye could see. President Foster gave a speech to the nation that evening, explaining why Earth was going to war. "My fellow humans," she said, "today we learned that we are not alone in the universe. We also learned that evil exists among the stars, just as it does on Earth. An alien empire has enslaved billions of innocent people and is destroying entire worlds." She paused and looked directly into the camera. But they made one crucial mistake. They sent out a cry for help, and humans heard it. Today, Earth's children go to the stars not as conquerors, but as liberators. We go to show the galaxy that, as long as Earth exists, no one will suffer alone. The fleet began moving toward Sectar space the next morning. Jake Morrison's single distress call had awakened something in humanity that the galaxy had never seen before. The Sectar were about to learn why Earth was classified as a death world. 3 weeks later, the human fleet dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of Sectar territory. Captain Danny Wright stood on the bridge of the USS Liberty, looking at the massive formation of Earth ships spread out around him. 312 vessels, the largest fleet in human history, all ready to fight for people they had never met. "Communications, open a channel to all ships," Danny ordered. "Channel open, sir." "Act. This is Captain Wright to all vessels. Today we fight not for conquest or glory, but for freedom. We fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. Remember why we're here. Remember Jake Morrison and his crew who risked everything to bring us this message. Let's make them proud." Want to sell common acts, according to the intelligence they had gathered. This was where the Sectar kept their strongest forces and their military command. Admiral Bextalon was eating his morning meal when his aide rushed into his quarters. The young Sectar officer looked terrified. "Admiral, Our outer sensors have detected a large fleet approaching Dominax. They appear to be from the species that calls itself human. Vextellan laughed, showing his sharp teeth. Humans, those weak creatures from the small blue planet. How many ships do they have? 5? 10, sir? Our count shows over 300 vessels. The admiral stopped laughing. 300? That's impossible. Our intelligence report said they barely had a space fleet at all. Sir, they're broadcasting a message. They're demanding our surrender. Vextellan stood up, his forearms reaching for his weapons. Surrender? To a species we've never even fought? Play their message. The communication came through in clear sectar language. The computer had translated Captain Wright's words. This is Captain Danny Wright of the Terran Defense. Fleet, you have exactly 1 hour to surrender unconditionally and release all prisoners from every world you have conquered. If you refuse, we will take them by force. This is your only warning. Vextellan snarled with rage. Who do these humans think they are? We have conquered 47 worlds. We've never been defeated in battle. Send a message back to them. Tell them that the Sectar Dominion bows to no one. What about their fleet size, sir? 300 ships is more than we have in this system. Numbers mean nothing if the enemy is weak. Prepare all ships for battle. We will crush these humans and add their world to our empire. 1 hour later, the Sectar fleet moved to attack positions. Vextellan commanded 87 warships, each one larger and more heavily armed than the human vessels. He was confident that size and firepower would win the day. All ships, attack formation, he ordered. Show these humans the power of the Sectar Dominion. The two fleets approached each other across the dark space around Dominax. On the USS Liberty, Danny Wright watched the enemy ships getting closer. His crew was nervous. They had never fought aliens before, and the Sectar ships looked incredibly dangerous. Sir, they're moving to attack, reported his tactical officer. All ships, implement Battle Plan Alpha. Remember, hit their shields with the electromagnetic pulse first, then follow up with kinetic weapons. The Sectar fired first. Massive energy beams lanced across space, designed to cut through the armor of any ship they hit. But the human ships were smaller and faster. They scattered in all directions, making themselves hard to target. Then, the humans fired back, and Vextellan got his first shock. The electromagnetic pulse weapons, designed using Tommy Brooks' research, hit the Sectar shields and made them flicker and fail. Within seconds, the Sectar ships were defenseless. What happened? Next changed the course of galactic history. Human kinetic bombardment systems, originally built to destroy asteroids that threatened Earth, punched through Sectar armor like it was made of paper. Ships that had been invincible for centuries were torn apart in minutes. Impossible, Vextellan whispered as he watched his flagship's sister ship explode. Are they doing this? His aide was panicking. Sir, their weapons are incredibly powerful. They're not using energy beams like we expected. They're shooting chunks of metal at incredible speeds. Retreat to the planet's surface. We'll make our stand there. But when the surviving Sectar ships reached Dominax, they found human ships already waiting for them. Colonel Amy Wells had planned the battle perfectly, using Earth's superior speed and mobility to surround the enemy. The second wave of the attack came from the Terran Marines. Thousands of drop pods fell from the human ships like deadly rain. Commander Ryan Torres led the assault on the main Sectar fortress, where they kept their command center and thousands of prisoners. The Sectar had never fought humans before. They expected them to be weak and slow, like most of the species they had conquered. Instead, they found themselves facing soldiers who moved like lightning and fought with incredible determination. Ryan Torres kicked down the door to a prison block and found hundreds of alien prisoners from a dozen different worlds. They were thin and weak from years of slavery, but their eyes lit up with hope when they saw the human soldiers. You're free, Ryan told them through his translator. We're here to take you home. The battle for Dominax lasted 3 days. Sectar fought desperately, but they were not prepared for human tactics. Earth's soldiers had trained for combat on a world where everything was trying to kill them. Fighting on alien worlds was actually easier than training on Earth. On the third day, Admiral Vextellan was captured trying to escape in a small ship. He was brought before Captain Wright on the bridge of the USS Liberty. The alien admiral looked, confused and defeated. "I don't understand," Vextalon said through the translator. "We have the largest ships, the most powerful weapons. How did you defeat us so easily?" Annie Wright looked at the alien who had enslaved billions of people. "Made a mistake. You thought bigger was always better. But Earth taught us that survival isn't about being the strongest. It's about being the smartest, the fastest, and the most determined." He leaned forward and looked Vextalon in the eyes. "You also made another mistake. You hurt innocent people and asked for help. That call for help reached Earth, and humans don't ignore people who need our help." While the fleet was fighting at Dominax, other human ships were racing to the 47 conquered worlds. Each one carried marines and relief supplies. The liberation of the Sectar Empire had begun. Jake Morrison and the New Horizon joined the relief efforts. Jake had become a hero to the rescued aliens, the captain who had first answered their call for help. Vera Titlesong worked with him to coordinate the return of her people to Aquinas. "Your species is remarkable," she told Jake as they watched human ships helping to rebuild her world. "You could have ignored our call. You could have decided it was not your problem, but you came anyway." Jake shrugged. "That's what people do. For each other. When someone needs help, you help them." Colonel Wells was coordinating the liberation of 3 worlds when she received a message that made her smile. More alien species were sending distress calls asking for Earth's help against other oppressive empires. Word was spreading across the galaxy that humans were the species to call when you needed protection. The war with the Sectar Dominion was almost over. In less than a month, an empire that had ruled for centuries was being dismantled by humans, who refused to let injustice stand. But the real victory was not the military conquest. It was the moment when former slaves looked up at the sky and saw human ships bringing them home. It was the moment when children who had been separated from their families were reunited. It was the moment when hope returned to worlds that had forgotten what freedom felt like. The galaxy was learning that when humans heard a call for help, they did not send negotiators or study committees. They sent liberators. 3 months after the last Sectar ship surrendered, Admiral Sam Carter stood on the steps of what used to be the Sectar Capitol building on Dominax. The dark, threatening structure had been transformed into a courthouse where war criminals were being tried for their crimes against the 47 enslaved worlds. Representatives from every liberated species had come to witness this historic moment. Beings with scales, fur, feathers, and skin stood together in the plaza, all waiting to see justice finally served. Some had been slaves for generations and had never dreamed they would see their oppressors face trial. Sam looked out at the crowd and felt proud of what humanity had accomplished. But he also felt humble. This victory belonged to all the species who had suffered under Sectar rule, not just to Earth. "Admiral Carter," called a familiar voice. Sam turned to see Jake Morrison walking up the steps with Vera Titlesong beside him. The merchant captain looked different now. He was wearing a formal dress uniform instead of his usual work clothes, and there was a new medal on his chest. "Jake, Vera, good to see you both," Sam said, shaking their hands. "How are the reconstruction efforts going on, Aquinas?" Vera's large eyes sparkled with happiness. "Better than we ever hoped. Your people have helped us rebuild 3 major cities. Already our children are swimming in clean oceans again. The coral reefs are starting to grow back." "And the research station?" Sam asked. "The Aquanistera Research Institute will open next month," Jake said with a smile. "Vera and her people are sharing their biotechnology with Earth scientists. They think they can cure diseases that have killed humans for centuries." Vera nodded enthusiastically. "Your species saved us. Now we want to help save yours. It is only fair." Through the crowd, Sam spotted other familiar faces. Colonel Amy Wells was talking with military leaders from 6 different species, planning joint defense agreements. Commander Ryan Torres was surrounded by former prisoners who wanted to thank the Marine who had freed them from the fortress. Tommy Brooks was there too. But he was not alone. He had brought a team of engineers from 5 different worlds. "We're working together to build new ships that combined the best technology from all species." The first joint construction project would be a hospital ship designed to help refugees and disaster victims across the galaxy, Kate. Sullivan had started a medical school on Earth where human doctors learned to treat alien species while alien healers taught humans about their advanced healing techniques. She was training the first generation of truly universal medics. President Helen Foster walked up to the podium that had been set up in front of the courthouse. The crowd grew quiet as she began to speak. Her words were translated into dozens of languages so everyone could understand. 3 months ago, we received a call for help from people we had never met, she began. Today we stand here not as separate species, but as friends and allies united by our shared belief in freedom and justice. She paused and looked out at the diverse crowd. The Sectar Dominion believed that might makes right, that the strong should rule the weak, but they were wrong. Today we have proven that when free people stand together, no tyrant can defeat them. The crowd cheered, a sound made up of human voices mixed with alien calls, whistles, and songs. It was the sound of hope. After the ceremony, Sam walked through the plaza, listening to conversations in languages he could not understand, but emotions he recognized completely. Families were reuniting after years of separation. Children were playing together despite coming from different worlds. Former enemies were becoming friends. He found Jake sitting on a bench watching the sunset over the alien city. The sky was purple instead of orange, but somehow it felt like home. "How does it feel to be the most famous captain in the galaxy?" Sam asked, as he sat down next to Jake. Jake laughed. "Strange. All I did was answer a distress call. Any decent person would have done the same thing. But you did it when it mattered most. Your decision to change course started all of this." Jake was quiet for a moment, thinking about the journey that had brought them here. "You know what the best part is? It's not the medals or the fame. It's seeing Vera's people swimming in there oceans again. It's watching those kids play together. It's knowing that no one is going to bed hungry or afraid tonight because of what we did." Sam nodded. "The president wants to give you command of the new Galactic Relief Fleet, 50 ships, dedicated to helping people in crisis anywhere in the galaxy. I'm honored, but I think I'll stick with the New Horizon for now. She's old and beat up, but she's still got good engines and a loyal crew. Plus, there are a lot of cargo runs to make. These liberated worlds need supplies, medicine, building, materials, the cargo that really matters," Sam said, with understanding. Meanwhile, on Earth, things were changing rapidly. The revelation that humans were not alone in the universe had shocked some people, but most were proud of what their species had accomplished. Children learned about the galactic community in school. Scientists worked on projects that would have been impossible without alien knowledge. The New York Times headline that morning had read, "Earth's Children Come Home Heroes." But the article focused not on military victories, but on the thousands of human volunteers who had stayed behind to help rebuild the liberated worlds. Dr. Lisa Park, who had left her job as a teacher to help establish schools on former slave worlds, was quoted in the article. "These people lost everything but never lost hope. The least we can do is help them build something better." Back on Dominax, the courthouse had finished its work for the day. The last Sectar war criminals had been sentenced to help rebuild the worlds they had destroyed. It was considered a fair punishment by most of the liberated species. Vera found Jake as he was preparing to leave. "There is something I want to show you," she said, leading him to a new monument that had been built in the center of the plaza. The monument was simple, but beautiful. It showed a small cargo ship, clearly meant to be the New Horizon, with its cargo bay doors open. Inside, instead of cargo, there were figures representing all the species of the galaxy. Standing together at the base of the monument were words written in every language of the liberated worlds. English translation read, "To the crew of the New Horizon, who prove that the greatest cargo a ship can carry is hope." Jake stared at the monument, feeling overwhelmed. "Vera, this is too much. We were just doing our job." "No," she said firmly. "You were doing much more than your job. You were being human. Now the whole galaxy knows what that means." As Jake prepared to return to his ship, he received a message on his communicator. It was another distress call, this time from a species called the Mothhai in a distant galaxy. They were being attacked by robot ships and needed help. Jake smiled. and called his crew. "Lisa, Tommy, Kate, we've got another job. Looks like someone out there needs our help." "Just like old times, Captain," Lisa replied over the com, setting course for adventure. The New Horizon lifted off from Dominax as the alien sun set behind the mountains. In the cargo bay, instead of medical supplies or food, they carried something more valuable. They carried the promise that as long as humans sailed the stars, no cry for help would go unanswered. The galaxy had learned an important lesson. When you threatened innocent people within earshot of a death world, you did not get visitors or negotiators, you got liberators. And once Earth's children heard your call for help, they would never stop coming until everyone was free. The age of galactic tyranny was over. The age of galactic community had begun. And it all started with a simple merchant captain who refused to ignore a stranger's call for help.